Hello, everybody, and welcome to round 3 of the 2021 GP4 Offline Championship, the third race of the fantasy era. We are here at the popular Baku City Circuit for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, the second street circuit on the calendar, and a bit earlier than in what it was last season, because last season, of course, this race was mid-season, but it's been obviously been pushed forward to round 3 due to the space that was left by Bahrain, due to the fact that that's towards the back end of the season. But anyway, I am JW97, and today I am joined by my arch nemesis Ra. How are you doing?
Yep, hello everybody, and I am doing good so far.
To hear. Obviously, we've got a dry practice session, as you may have seen on your screen, and of course, we do have quite a long loading screen for this, quite a bit of a lengthy one due to the textures around the track. So that's for anybody who is unfamiliar with the loading screens of Baku. But obviously, last time out in China, we had Amar Kar win the race, surprisingly making the one-stop work, but it was very close in that top four in the end. And well, it was for a while we didn't even know who was going to win the race.
Yep, indeed, and especially with Evan Byrne and Chris Chapter fighting the entire time. We thought it was those two fighting for the win, but Omar Khan unexpectedly was in this fight.
And as a result, it has lifted both he and Mercedes up into second in both the Drivers' and the Constructors' Championship. Car finding himself, I believe, 5 points behind Franco Gamba in the Drivers' Championship. And whether he can keep that up at a track that he's got some good history at over in the past, we'll have to wait and see. Because, of course, Carr won the first 3 races here at Baku before Lopez won the next 2. And whether Mercedes can get another win here will be remain to be seen. We do expect this to be a power track, and as we've seen from what Yuri has talked about during preseason testing, we do believe Mercedes could benefit well with tracks that involve quite a lot of power. And well, it does have a very long straight here, doesn't it, Ral?
Yep, indeed. I think it will help, especially all the Mercedes power cars like Williams, Aston Martin, and yeah, it could help those three out.
Indeed, it was very interesting to see. Of course, Williams obviously got a very good points haul here last season with Felix Sontar finishing in 6th after performing a defensive masterclass on Joseph Willows. So whether that will be the same this season, we will have to wait and see. But we're going to get some action on the way as one of the cars is coming out onto the circuit. That will be a Williams, because you can see the pink strip on the mechanic there. So Williams is going to be coming out first. No, it won't, because he's having to wait for somebody to go down the pit lane. Who will that be? It is a Mercedes, in fact, and it is Franco Lopez, a man who, to put it this way, the defense of his championship has not gone very well so far, has it, Ra? The first race, he finished in 7th, and then in China, didn't score any points at all, sustaining damage in that race.
Yep, indeed. It wasn't even the best of seasons for him at the moment, especially getting knocked out in Q1 in China.
And he's yet to get a Q3 appearance this season because he got knocked out in Q2, let's not forget, at the Australian Grand Prix. He's yet to get a top 10 position in qualifying. Whether that will change today here at Baku, it will remain to be seen. And of course, you may remember as well in the last race in Shanghai, we had the first appearance of the spare car ban. And given this sort of track, given how close the barriers are, it could be very, very interesting with that system.
Yeah, in qualifying in China, it didn't really do much, but in practice, it did. But I think we will be expecting some, maybe even more in practice, and we may expect some in qualifying.
We'll have to wait and see, of course. But yeah, I think it will be very interesting to see if anybody can keep that earth, especially with the mistake rate that we have for both practice and qualifying. Qualifying being, I think, significantly more than practice, if I'm not mistaken. So as we now approach the left-hander now, then Lopez will be starting his next lap. The tyres we're using for this race is once again the hard tyres. It's the same compound that we used in China, but whether there will be the same sort of wear that we had in China, we will have to wait and see. And yep, Yuri's just clarified it is more in qualifying. So as I was saying there, of course, we had the hard tyres last time out in China, and it was very interesting to see because it could have gone either way. The 1-stop could have worked, the 2-stop could have worked, and even the 3-stop could have worked. But in the end, it was the 1-stop that prevailed. And depending on the tyre wear and given this sort of track, could we be in for a similar situation this weekend, Ra?
Yeah, I really believe so. But yeah, if it's different to China, then I think we could see 2 to 3 stops working out here.
Indeed so, and Lopez is on his lap. He'll be coming up towards the end of the sector. Of course, this is the track that he's won at in the past 2 seasons, in 2019 and 2020, both chased that time, of course, by Armar Carr. So Carr, of course, has got some good history here, and so has Lopez. And if Lopez wants to kick off his championship, this is probably the best place to really do it here at Baku. And as we come up towards the end of the first sector, a 44.031 for Franco Lopez. And obviously, given that this is more of a power track, obviously you've got the middle sector, which is where the downforce is going to come into play. But the sector 1 and sector 2 and sector 3, sorry, is where the power of the engines in the back of these cars is going to come into an effect. And of course the setups as well, because some tend to go very low on terms of downforce, others go for a low setup, others go for quite a high setup to counteract the second sector. So we'll have to wait and see on that and see where everybody stands in this practice session and what they will be able to set up during qualifying, as Lopez just comes around the final few turns to compete his first lap of practice now then, as he's just going to make his way through these flat out left and right handers now then. And as mentioned, looking to try and get a good result in this time, but after a tricky start to the season for the two-time world champion, as Lopez will come down the pit straight now then, and Lopez is going to cross the line. The benchmark time for practice is going to be a 1:39.177. The Aston Martin, with the same power behind, goes 4 tenths slower. Anderson slots into second. And of course, the last time Anderson was here, of course, was back in 2017, and that was where we got his last podium in the top class before he disappeared for the next 3 seasons from the top class. But obviously, Aston Martin have so far really struggled this season. Along with Williams, they are still yet to score a point this season.
Yeah, indeed. And yeah, it's not been the best of starts of the season for them. Hopefully they can come back, get back stronger from this, but we'll see what happens. Still a long way to go.
I believe Garber may have had some traffic, hence why he finds himself 8 tenths off his team at the moment. Willows slots into second position, and Willows was a little bit of a bowling. Thought he was at a bowling alley last week at China, but causing that lap 1 crash. It's been not the best start to the season for McLaren, has it, Ra? I mean, we've seen the pace that they're capable of, but it just never seems to transform itself into the race for some reason.
I think it gets to a point where they need to trust each other, both Joseph Willows and Carrossimo de Rosa. But at the in Australia, there was a really bad example of that, and in China, Joseph Willows just decided, yeah, play bowling, and it was a really bad idea. And even Kiro as well, he decided to ruin Franco Gamba's chance of winning the Chinese Grand Prix.
Yeah,
as well.
Gamba could have made it 2 out of 2. He so far had a brilliant start to the season with Franco Gamba, especially given how quick the Red Bull is. But you could argue that he lost the win because of what De Rosa did to him at the final corner. Potentially could have cost him the win there. But in the end, it obviously did happen. And of course, we ended up with Carr winning the race, as his teammate Lopez didn't improve that time by, even though he was up on his personal best in the middle sector. Anderson, meanwhile, gets up into 10th, and Gamba is being held up. He's being held up by the Aston of Roland Motrin. At this point in time, Galloway improves but remains in 3rd position at this point in time. Obviously, as we mentioned, the tyres we're using is the hard tyres. It'll be very interesting to see what the degradation is going to be like, because it can sort of vary depending on the tyre where the hard tyres sorts of bring out. And of course, with the bigger range of wear rates that we have for the tyres now, ever since we kind of merged the 2018 tyres, it's going to be quite an interesting thing. Carr, meanwhile, has gone into 10th, so far only 5th and 10th so far for the 2 Mercedes drivers. Riding on board with Roland Motrin, of course, one of the teams that is yet to score a point, as Garber finally finds a way through on Roland Motrin there, so he's finally been cleared of the Aston Martin. But Gal, meanwhile, goes into 18th, and it was a very, very good race for AlphaTauri, because given the car they've had so far, which has been a bit of a dog to say the least, they actually scored some points last time out in China. 2 points for David Kupok, and, well, that's that really, and it was a great result for AlphaTauri. It could have been a double points finish, really, had Gal not been taken out by Franco Lopez. But, yeah, I think a lot of people were very surprised by their performance in China.
It showed that they have good straight line speed, but they don't have the downforce when it comes to, like, tracks where you really need downforce.
And whether they can keep that up here in Baku. I mean, you mentioned about the straight line speed. Of course, this track has got a lot of straight line speed, so maybe we could see some more points being delivered for AlphaTauri. We have to wait and see as Lopez improves but remains in 5th. And now it's Roke's turn to be held up by Roland Motrin. And he's currently, as mentioned, at the top of the timing sheets. It's not been the best of starts for George Roque either, has it, Ra, on his return to Red Bull? He seems so far that Garber's had the measure of him so far in this early part of the season. And, of course, he finished fifth last time out. He finished fifth in Australia, which wasn't a great result given the strategy he was on. And, of course, at China, where he got taken out on the first lap. So, yeah, he's not really had the best of luck, has he? As Willows goes up into, stays in second, really, but improves, and he's now a 10th behind Roke. But, yeah, not been the best of starts for Roke, has it, Ra?
Indeed. You really got a bit unlucky at the start, and also qualifying wasn't the best in China as well. Only P10 for him, and yeah, you could see that he has potential. He did qualify Franco Gamba in Australia, managed to qualify third, but yeah, there is promising sights for George Roque, but it's still a long way to go. He could get there.
We'll have to wait and see, of course. But yeah, plenty of time for him to get himself back in the title picture, you could say, given it seems that the Red Bull looks like it's going to be fighting for the title this season, judging from the pace it's currently got. We also saw as well that the Renault has also got some very good potential. We talked about that Evan Byrne obviously came close to getting a victory at China, but of course he finally was able to break his pole duck that he's had for quite a while. We thought he was going to break his pole duck back in 2018 in the Renault, but he's had to wait a little bit longer. He finally got pole position at the Chinese Grand Prix, and he's so far shown that he's been a very strong qualifier at the moment at this point in time, Ra.
Yep, indeed, and he showed really good defensive skills with the power he had in that Renault. And yeah, as you said, he nearly could have won that race. And yeah, there is signs that he could win a race.
Yeah, indeed, and we'll have to wait and see if he's able to get another good qualifying under his belt here at Baku, because we saw in China that the Renault also has some very good straight line speed as well. Although so far in this practice session, they've not been lighting up the lap times at the moment. Only 11th and 17th for the two Renaults at the moment. Kupok improves but remains in 21st, as well as actually overtook him down the pit straight there. That another driver who will be very, very delighted with what happened in China was, of course, Daniel Fraser, a man you could say is under a little bit of pressure this season after what had been a shaky 2020 season. He so far got off to the best start, and in the last race in China, what a race he had, finishing in P6, and it wasn't by luck. He actually fully deserved it.
Yep, indeed, and even qualifying was the best for him as well. And yeah, P6, really good. It's pretty much his best finish ever in the top class, and really good points for him. And this is great progress from him so far.
And it also put Haas up into 6th place in the Constructors' Championship, a lot higher than what they managed last season. They've already, because of Fraser's finish, surpassed the points that they got last season. They only scored 2 points in 2020, already surpassed that thanks to Fraser's performance in China. But whether they can keep hold of that 6th place, though, I think it might be a little bit tricky for them. But, you know, those sorts of occasions where they can benefit, you can... safe to say that Haas will be there to capitalise at the moment. Wilson hasn't had the best of starts on the other side of the Haas camp at the moment. We expected Wilson to possibly be outpacing Fraser this season, but clearly still adapting to the Haas at the moment. Obviously, she retired in the first race after being taken out by Videri, and then in the last race, she just seemed to be in no man's land, really, only finishing in 14th, way off the pace of her teammate.
Yeah, indeed. At least she finished on the lead lap, I think. Yeah, she did manage to finish on the lead lap, so I mean that is something to finish on the lead lap. But yeah, being way behind your teammate is not what you want, and you have to try and come back stronger.
Indeed, and of course, what was I going to say there? I kind of lost what I was going to say there. But anyway, it's Perrin, meanwhile, he's got himself into the top 10 as we speak, and he got himself up there a little bit earlier on, but he's just improved on his time, and he's 700th off Roman Quarg at the moment. Willows, meanwhile, 0.133 off of George Roque at the moment in this practice session, so getting a little bit closer to George Roque's 1 minute 38.717 at the moment. Obviously, 51 laps around here tomorrow as well, and it'll be interesting to see what the race will have installed tomorrow as well in this 51-lap Azerbaijan Grand Prix, as Lopez loses time there in the middle sector. But I think it kind of confirms that Mercedes does have some decent pace on the straight line, given that he was up on the first sector, which is just basically just straights, really. But Yeah, that's that really. Obviously, last time out as well, we might as well talk about Lamborghini since you're here, Ra. Double points finish for Lamborghini last time out. Rahul Patel, after retiring in Australia, managing to score his first ever points in the top class, taking a fifth place finish. At one point, was looking around the podium places, but then sort of tailed off after the pit stop stages happened. But a very strong result for Lamborghini, especially with Laura Chung, given that she lost her front wing at the halfway point of the race, but managed to get it up into 10th position. Lamborghini so far showing they've got a very decent car at the moment, Ra.
Yep, indeed. And still, their only weakness is pretty much straight line speeds. They're pretty much not the best in the straight line, but I think they can get there. But we'll see what happens. They just need to get a good setup that can help them be quick in a straight line.
Another team that's also looked decent, if we go over the road from Lamborghini, is Ferrari at the moment. Ferrari have looked pretty strong. They've been in podium contention in the last couple of races, mainly from Chris Chatfield, who I think it's fair to say he has surprised a lot of people this season. Obviously managing to pick up his first ever podium in Australia. Just missed out on a podium last time out in China after he got overtaken on the last lap by Franco Gamba. Probably a little bit similar to when Miklos Gal overtook him last season. As Gamba, but now he's been released, is now starting to put some pace on the board, so maybe we could see him up in the top three a little bit in a minute. It depends on how much power the Honda engine has in the back of that Red Bull. But anyway, as I was saying there, really, Chris Chatfield having a very good season at the moment, but Jake Galloway hasn't got off to the best of starts like everyone was expecting. He had a dreadful race in Australia, and then in China he got took out at the start, of course, along with George Roke and that. And Gamba, as expected, does go up into third position. But we know that Jake Galloway is a very good driver. We've seen it a few times, and so far he finds himself in fourth place. But his life, his career at Ferrari has not really started off as he was expecting, really, Ra.
It's been a struggling season for him, but hopefully he can pick it up. And yeah, speaking of Chris Chatfield, yeah, he's done really well, getting the podium in his first ever race in Ferrari, his first ever podium in the top class, and yeah, of course, missing out on another podium in China, but not just the podium. He could have actually won this race if the Ferrari had more power in the straight line, because he really struggled to get past Evan Byrne.
Yeah, and Evan even got reminded of last season at Hungary when Chris was constantly bumping into him, and he was doing that in China as well at the hairpin. Luckily, it didn't end anybody's race that time, as well as now finds himself under a tenth now behind Roke, 0.088 behind Roke at the moment, and so far looking pretty strong in second place. But we keep talking about this, about McLaren looking strong in practice and qualifying. Again, it doesn't translate in the race for some reason, not even in when it really matters in qualifying. And they really got to get on top of that if they want to score some serious points, because we know that McLaren has got some potential, clearly, judging from the pace they've shown in practice sessions and qualifying sessions, but they've not been able to transfer it at the moment. Will this weekend be where they properly kick off their championship? We'll have to wait and see. Here is Jamie Griffiths. So far, Williams, along with Aston Martin, still yet to score a point this season. And Jamie Griffiths, you were talking about earlier on, if you were wondering whether or not Amelia Wilson stayed on the lead lap or not. Well, only one person failed to stay on the lead lap. That was Jamie Griffiths. He had a disastrous race in China, and nobody seems to know why, really, because he never had any issues during the race. He just seemed to have a bit of an off day, really, Ra.
His pace gone. I don't think he was that slow, but wow, I was really surprised that Jamie was the only driver to be a lap down.
Yeah, like I said, he just seemed to have a bit of an off day. He just seemed to be nowhere, really. And, well, he'll be looking to put that race behind him and hope to have a better race here in Azerbaijan, as well as finds himself 62 thousandths, but down on his personal best in the middle sector. He could maybe try and get some slipstream from that Alfa Romeo just in front at the moment. That Alfa Romeo being Roman Quark, who so far, we talked about it in China, has had a very good return to the top class at the moment. Obviously scoring points in Australia. Then got took out on lap 1, of course, in China. But he had a very strong qualifying session in China. And it seems, he's having a very good season. Unlike on the other side of the garage, Andre Vaderi, who through no fault of his own at the moment, has, whilst he's been showing the pace that we've been used to seeing him last season, and even at times in 2019, he's still yet to finish a race this season. He's the only driver yet to finish a race this season. He's not had the rub of the green so far, has Vaderi.
Yep, indeed, and yeah, of course, he could have actually gotten points in China, and same with Krug if he wasn't taken out at the start. But yeah, Alfa Romeo could have had a great race in China.
Indeed, especially as we talked about earlier, how Krog was able to get a good qualifying under his belt, like Daniel Fraser, able to get the Alfa Romeo into P9, even out qualifying George Roke as well, which is something as well. Byrne, meanwhile, still stuck in 13th. The Renault's not showing too much pace so far in this practice session. Maybe they're holding it back for qualifying a little bit later on. So Willow's again, well, he's actually coming into the pits this lap. He's actually done quite a few, he's been out on track for quite a while. In fact, it's Amelia Wilson trying to find a way through on Jake Galloway there, but it's not going to quite work out for Wilson just there at the moment. Wilson finding herself in last place at the moment. In fact, the Haas is down in 21st and 22nd. So given the highs with China at the moment, unless this is anything to go by in qualifying, it could be back to reality for Haas at the moment.
Yep, indeed. Maybe they have they have a draggy setup at the moment.
We'll have to wait and see, of course, whether this will be a thing that we have to keep an eye on during the qualifying session. We look now at Felix Sontag, who, along with Roland Motrin, has finished in the same position as he did in Australia. He had a 13th in Australia, a 13th in China as well. Same goes with Motrin. He finished 12th in Australia and finished 12th in China as well. They've basically been consistent with their results, but I'm pretty sure they both want a little bit more, especially Roland Motrin, who I guess, like with a lot of people, was hoping the Aston Martin would be very competitive and be up there with where the McLaren, the Red Bull, the Ferrari, the Renault and the Mercedes are at the moment, and even at times the Lamborghini, but the Aston Martin definitely falling back, it seems, this season compared to last season. And who knows, it looks like Roland and Julius looking like they could be in for a very tricky season in 2021, and they'll be hoping that in this race where power matters, and given they've got a decent engine in the back, they could help them try and get some points in this race perhaps, and maybe ease the pain that they are currently going through at the moment, as Griffiths is having trouble trying to pass one of the Alfa Romeos there. We saw that Gamba was up on his personal best a little bit earlier on. He improves but remains in third position, isn't able to make it a Red Bull like 1-2 like we saw last week in practice when Gamba topped the session ahead of George Rowe, but wasn't able to transfer it into qualifying. You could argue mainly because of the changeable conditions that were there in China, and we're hoping that's not going to be the case here in Azerbaijan. Obviously the rain chance is a lot lower than it is in China here at Azerbaijan, but it's still a good chance. Of course, we have had rain here in the past, let's not forget. I think it was back in the 2019 season when we had a wet race here at Azerbaijan, which Franco Lopez won, in fact, ending Armarkov's streak of victories here at Baku. And only Car and Lopez, as we mentioned, the only two winners here at the Baku City Circuit, both driving for Mercedes. And of course Lopez will want to get his championship underway here this week here at Azerbaijan after what has been a tricky start to the season, as Garbo is actually up on Roke in the first sector. In fact, you can see, look, 4,000's up, but whether he can keep that up in the last two sectors, we'll have to wait and see. That's not much of a window he's got there to try and ensure he doesn't make a mistake at the moment.
Yep, indeed. Hopefully he can find more time, but we'll see what happens.
As it's currently 4th and 7th at the moment for the two Ferrari drivers, as I was saying there. Let's see what Gamba's second sector is like compared to George Ray. He's coming towards the end of it now then, and he has lost time to Roke, but he's still up on his personal best, so he could still try and make it a Red Bull 1-2, but we'll have to wait and see how he does in this last sector as the early championship leader just negotiates around the final two corners, as Griffiths is again trying to find a way through on the Alfa Romeo there, and I think he might have actually done it this time. He has, so he's now cleared the Alfa Romeo there of Andre Videri, as mentioned, the only driver this season who's still yet to finish a race in 2021. Here comes Franco Gamba in the Red Bull. Across the line he will go, and he does go up into second, so it is now a Red Bull 1-2 in the practice zones. Perinen showing some pace now when the Renault goes up into P number 6, gets himself above Franco Lopez. Perinen has had a very impressive debut so far. Obviously got his first ever podium last time out at Australia, but in China the strategy kind of backfired on him there. He went with a free-stop strategy, and whilst he was looking strong in the early stages, it didn't really pay out for him in the end.
Yep, indeed. The free-stop really didn't work for him. Yeah, it really cost him a lot of time. Maybe he could have got the podium, but we will see. We don't know what would have happened for him. But yeah, it's still good for him getting more points, but it's not what he hoped for.
Oh, definitely not. Patel, meanwhile, whilst we were talking, got up into 9th, so 9th and 10th for the moment for the two Lamborghinis. Motrin has got up into 11th. He actually gets himself above Amar Khan, the winner of the last race, the Chinese Grand Prix. Chatfield gets up into, well, in fact, he remains in 6th position at the moment, but improves on his best time. In fact, no, he does go up into 6th. I do apologise, ignore me. He does go up into 6th position, 4th and 6th now for the two Ferrari drivers in this practice session. We saw that Garber was not that far off in the first sector, and he's still not far off in the middle sector, so he could still pull it back in the last sector. But if the first two sectors are anything to go by, then I don't think this is going to be an improvement for the early championship leader. But we will have to wait and see, as a couple of cars are now coming into bits. Griffiths, meanwhile, thanks to being broken free from Ferrari, now gets up into P number 11 now then. So a strong showing there on that lap for Jamie Griffiths. Quag now then improves to split the two Lamborghinis, gets himself into the top 10 now. Perinin improves but remains in 7th place, 5 thousandths off of Chris Chatfield at the moment, as we ride on board with the early championship leader, Franco Gamba. Could this actually be the season where he could win the championship and be the first GP2 champion to win a top-class champion title? I know it's quite early days at the moment, but who knows really. We've still got 19 races, anything could still change. And of course, we talked about in the last race how Franco Gamba was predicting, judging from the pace that the times that we saw in practice and the pecking order, we could have a sort of similar season to what we saw in the real-life MotoGP season in 2020, where you don't literally know who's going to win at every race and which team is going to end up on top, which is going to be quite exciting, and hopefully that ends up being the case, because I think that could make the championship quite interesting. And it looks like now Gamba is just getting some race runs under his belt. Motrin improves a little bit more but remains in 11th position, as we look at the moment at Felix Sontag in the pink Williams. And pink, of course, being his favourite colour. So I guess when he saw the livery, judging from his reaction, he got a little bit giddy. Chatfield now goes up into P4 as he now gets himself above Jake Galloway now then. So Chatfield with a bigger improvement there to get himself into the top 4 and get the two Ferraris together on the timing sheets there. As we have just over, just under 17 minutes to go in this practice session before we head off to qualifying, and it'll be very interesting to see who will take pole position for tomorrow's Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Gal goes up into 16th, meanwhile, in the AlphaTauri. So far, this is what the leaderboard currently looks like. Roke at the top, Gamba in 2nd, Willows in 3rd, with Chatfield 4th, Galloway in 5th, De Rosa in 6th, followed by Perinin in 7th, Lopez in 8th, then it is Patel in 9th, Quagga improves a little bit more in 10th, Motra in 11th, Chung in 12th, with Griffiths 13th, Carr 14th, Byrne in 15th position, as Gowl is in 16th, Anderson 17th, Sontag 18th, Federi 19th, followed by Kupok in 20th, Fraser 21st, and Wilson in 22nd. And as I was speaking there, Perinin has actually got up into 3rd position in the Renault there. So a big improvement there for Jesus Perinin, and the Renault starting to show some pace now, it seems, Ra.
Indeed, and they could be a real threat for pole position. And I think Johnson might have made a mistake there.
It looks like it was through the double right-hander. You can see there, look, just the car sort of bottoming out there as he was coming into there, and it kind of ruined a little bit too much. It kind of ruined his approach, really, going into the very infamous castle section, where in GP4 we've only had one crash in there during racing, and that came courtesy of Rick Yan, who was driving for Force India at that time in 2017. He's been the only driver to crash at the castle section during a race session. And so far, we haven't had it so far in the top class, and I don't think even in GP2/F2 at the moment. Obviously, the F2 cars are brand new, of course. They're obviously having their first race this week here at Baku, and we found out yesterday as well that the cars were around 3 seconds quicker than the old GP2 cars. So very interested to see there whether those cars will crash in the castle section, unlike what we saw with the GP2 cars in past seasons. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully that is not the case and we have a clean race, but you never know, of course. So Gamba trying to get some slipstream off the Lamborghini in front there. That Lamborghini being, I think that is Laura Chung, and it doesn't seem to be helping him out at the moment, it seems. Only 3 cars in the pit lane at the moment. Roke, De Rosa and Wilson at this point in time. They're just waiting about in the pit lane as we speak, as we have just under 15 minutes to go now then in this practice session. We've got a lot of cars down this straight, and well, I think slipstreaming, it's fair to say, Ra, could be a thing to look out for during qualifying, especially with this long straight.
Yep, indeed. Who can use it? We'll find out.
Yep, as Sontag crosses the line, no improvement for him at the moment. He finds himself in 18th. His teammate Griffiths currently 13th at the moment in the other Williams. And So far, Williams yet to score a point. Of course, we talked about how they've had a very good pass there at Baku. This seems to be a track that has suited them in the past, and they've been able to get them to fighting for points. Whether that will be the case this season, we will have to wait and see. Laura Chung, meanwhile, currently in the Lamborghini at the moment, and although she has scored points in the first 2 races, it's safe to say that she hasn't had the easiest start to the season, even though it has been quite strong, because in the first 2 races, she's up on a personal best in the first sector, but as we talk about her, she has so far had a front wing damage in every race so far in the first 2 races. She lost her front wing on lap 1 in Australia, and then she lost her front wing again during the Chinese Grand Prix after collecting debris from Miklos Gal's-stricken car. Both of those incidents, ironically, involving Franco Lopez in some capacity. So, yeah, I think she'll be trying to do her best to try and avoid Franco Lopez, Ra.
Yeah, indeed. Hopefully staying far in front or far behind. We'll see.
Perhaps indeed, but one thing that she hasn't missed a beat on is the fact that she's still probably one of the best overtakers in the top class, because she was doing some brilliant overtakes in Australia. Didn't see too much of it in China, but of course last season she probably had an overtake of the season here in 2020 when she went around the outside of George Rowe, basically catching him napping. And at the time, I think everybody was pretty much gobsmacked, Ra.
Yep, indeed, and yeah, it was an amazing overtake, especially in the underpowered Ferrari.
Indeed, and we'll have to wait and see if she's able to perform something like that in the race tomorrow in a Lamborghini. I highly doubt it, because it is quite a rare overtake that you find here at Baku, but you never know. Of course, she could still surprise us. Speaking of Lamborghinis, Patel has improved, but he remains so far in 9th position. Chung did improve on her lap, just to let you know. She actually got up into 11th place, getting herself above Roland Motrin. Let's see if she's going to look at another improvement in her def panel. She's 24 thousandths up on her personal best, so she might be looking at an even further improvement here. We'll have to wait and see, and luckily she's not getting affected by that traffic that's in front at the moment, so as long as she keeps herself away from it, she should be okay, and she'll also get a healthy dose of slipstream as well when she comes down the very long straight. Car has improved to go up into 12th place, but still not really ideal for him at the moment, as Q-Pock is trying to overtake Amelia Wilson, but that's not going to work. Burn, meanwhile, gets himself into the top 10. He now gets himself up into 8th place now then, so now just like with Perinen that we saw a little bit earlier on, he's now starting to show a little bit more pace, and the Renault seems to be turning it up the wick, it seems, a little bit. The top 4, in fact, I've only just realised, only 88 thousandths separate them at the moment, so very close in the top 4 at the moment in this practice session. Could that be an omen for qualifying a little bit later on? We'll have to wait and see. And so far, every qualifying session has been pretty much exciting, it's fair to say. We've had some very surprising pole sitters so far. Could that continue in this? Chung gets herself into the top 10, gets herself up into 9th position, so further improvement there. Nearly a 10th quicker there than her personal best, according to the def panel on the top right. So, yeah, let's see if she's going to be looking at some more improvement on this lap then. She might have had a little bit of help, in fact, as I put it earlier on, as Roke improves and now finds himself a 10th clear. Then Franco Garbi now does a 1 minute 38.642. Roke further improving his time at the board at the moment, and Roke clearly a man on the mission, it seems, as we pointed out a little bit earlier, desperate to actually get his season on the way and perhaps try and get a victory here at Baku and put himself back in the title fight, given that it seems that this Red Bull has got the potential to possibly fight for the championship this season. And Chung again looks like she's going to further improve, because she's once again 24 thousandths up on her personal best in the first sector, and she'll get a healthy bit of slipstream from the Mercedes in front of, well, her good friend Franco Lopez. So the irony there, as Chung now then makes her way through the double left-hander. Let's see if she can keep it up in this sector, as we have just over 10 minutes to go in this session. And quite surprisingly, knock on wood, because I might jinx this, we've not had any issues so far in this practice session. But now that I've said that, that might change in a little bit. so I'll have to wait and see if I've jinxed that or not. 10 minutes now left in this session. 30 minutes of the session has now come and gone, and we're not that far away now from the qualifying session to happen, which will happen in roughly around 13 minutes time, maybe a little bit more depending on how long it takes for Yuri to set up everything. Chung does improve to go up into 8th position. So once again, she's further improving on her times, and she's still going to go out a little bit more there. She's been out there on track actually for 14 laps according to the dev panel there. So yeah, she's done 14 laps so far in total, and that's not including the times that she's been in the pits. Roke further improves now. He does a 1 minute 38.583 now then, nearly 2 tenths clear of teammate Franco Gamba at the moment. As Patel improves but remains in 11th place at the moment. So Chung so far the only Lamborghini in the top 10. Let's see if Chung is still going to try and do some more improvements, as she's not that far behind the Mercedes of Franco Lopez. Let's see what the third sector is like. And yeah, once again, she's not giving up yet. She's still trying to find some more time in that Lamborghini at the moment. Probably just going for consecutive qualifying runs, really practicing some qualifying runs before the actual qualifying session a little bit later on. Of course, she'll want to have a better qualifying session, Ra, because last time out, she probably kicked herself yesterday, given that she made a very fatal error in Q2, really, where she made a mistake, and given that the conditions changed and she only had one lap, she ended up being far back down the grid.
Yeah, it really cost her a chance to get to Q3, and it was a massive blow for Laura Chung. But at least she did get points. But yeah, I think she would have been expecting more if qualifying went right for her.
Indeed, and hopefully that's not going to be the case for her, as Gamba improves meanwhile, and he's now 71 thousandths down on Roke now. The gap now just down to that again. So Gamba further improving now in the Red Bull. It seems both Red Bulls are turning up the wick, as Chung actually lost time in the second sector, and as a result doesn't improve on her lap and stays in 8th position. As Gal trying to find a way through on one of the Aston Martins here, and he's actually going to get the move done. So, judging from what we've seen with the Hondas at the moment, it seems we talked about how Mercedes might have some good power down the straight, but I would argue that clearly the Honda might be a little bit better at the moment.
Yeah, maybe they have a different setup compared to the Mercedes, but yeah, it could be interesting to see what the Honda engine could do.
Yep, as Roke, meanwhile, improved a little bit more. He's now a 1 minute 38.582. And so far still improving. And Chung finding some more time in the first sector there. So I don't know, maybe she made a mistake on the previous lap. I don't know. But whether she's going to improve again, we'll have to wait and see. Griffiths now trying to find a way through on Daniel Fraser and able to pull the move off quite well there. In fact, we've actually seen quite a lot of overtakes down into that corner in this practice session, and because we don't often see, we do see the odd few down there when it comes to races, but we don't see them that often, and we're seeing quite a lot more in this session. And Chung again losing time in the middle sector, so clearly the tyres maybe starting to catch up to her a little bit there, clearly not coping very well in the second sector, and so who knows really, as Chung will be finishing off her lap very soon now. Then the whole pack at the moment, I should point out, separated by 1.4 seconds. Again, continuing to confirm that it seems that the field spread is a lot closer than what it was last season, which is very, very exciting for anybody who's very new to watching GP4 OC. And so very exciting indeed, as Chung gets a little bit wobbly there. Luckily she doesn't put it in the wall there like she did in 2019. That whole controversy with the Ferrari teammates. Roke again further improves now. He's a 10th clear of Gamba, 138.538. So he's not letting off the gas just yet in this practice session, and continuing to set some very good fast times at the moment is George Roke. Chung now then makes her way down towards the left-right chicane, as there's just under 6 minutes to go in this session. And so far, it's still the two Red Bulls at the top of the time sheets. Once again, looking like they want to be the benchmark for everybody to beat so far this season. But ironically enough, even though they look to be the quickest car at the moment, Ra, they're still yet to get a pole position this season. Could today perhaps change this time by? As I don't think Ra heard me there. So I'll have to ask him that again once he's back. So it seems that Ra might have disappeared for a moment. So anyway, as Laura Chung now then makes her way down towards the second to last corner. As Chung now then makes her way towards the final two turns on the racetrack. As now Chung down the straight. What is she going do. It looks like she's going to get held up. In fact, as Roke is now the one being held up now after consecutive improvements. He's now being held up on that time. Are you there now, Ra? No, it seems like he's still disappeared. What's happening there with Ra? Hopefully he comes back in a little bit. I don't know if he's muted himself or not. But anyway, as Sontag now then makes his way down the straight, he's going to give himself, I think, about a couple of laps before the practice session comes to a close. And he now makes his way onto the straight as now he comes down towards the first corner as he's starting his next lap. Currently, Sontag finding himself in 19th position at the moment as Chung now then makes her way through the right-hander and now in towards the left-right chicane as George Roke now then trying to look onto the inside now of Jamie Griffiths. And or is it Sontag? No, it's Sontag, in fact. Sontag, the one starting his lap a little bit early on, so he's in fact the one that's actually holding up George Rowe. Welcome, dog commentator, everybody. That's that, really. So, I think Rowe is back now, is he?
Yeah, for some reason my internet started. I can't speak now.
Anyway, as I was saying there, when you were having your little issues, I was saying that despite the fact that they look to be the quickest car at the moment, Red Bull is still yet to get a pole position this season. Do you think that could change today?
Yeah, I think they can. It could change, but we will see. I mean, so far we've had we've had in Q1, Q2, Q3, we have one different driver being quickest in each session.
Yeah, whether that will be the case this time, we'll have to wait and see. As Vidal will be coming into the pits this lap, as Chung there was on the inside just before Vidal comes in the pits. Luckily, they actually behaved themselves when that happens here at Baku. It seems like on other tracks, they just don't seem to, the AI just don't seem to behave for some reason, but there we are. Some tracks are just built differently, I guess. When it comes to the AI reacting to certain situations, but there we are. Anyway, Roke comes down the straight and he does not improve that time by because again, still getting held up by Felix Sontag. Laura Chung, I think her session is done as there's only 2 minutes and 40 something seconds left. So I think that's her practice session done, which she's now going to be focusing on the qualifying session. And looking like a decent session for Laura Chung, it's safe to say. Will Roke be able to get Sontag this time by into this corner? The answer to that is no. So it looks like Roke's probably going to get held up for the remainder of it, but I don't think he'll care too much because he's at the top of the time machines. And unless somebody actually has a very big improvement towards the end of the session, I think Roke is probably going to stay there, but we'll have to wait and see. As we have just over 2 minutes left of the session. So Roke thought about a move there on Sontag into the double right-hander, but that wasn't going to quite work out there. And just probably trying to practice some slipstreaming now, perhaps, and practicing to see what it's like behind a car around here at the moment with the Red Bull he has. But I guess in the case of Franco Gabi, hoping he won't do that too much, and he'll be hoping he'll be fighting at the front this week here at Azerbaijan. But anyway, Chung will be heading into the pits this lap in the Lamborghini. And she will be, that'll be her practice session done with. As we have just over 1.5 minutes left now in this practice session as we're getting ever closer to the qualifying session to determine the grid for tomorrow's Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And Roke now then just making his way onto the straight now, then continuing to get held up by Felix Sontag as Galloway's session has come to a close as he's got the pit icon. P6 for him, so 5th and 6th for the two Ferrari drivers in this session. As Roke is going to cross the line now then, and he's still struggling to find a way through on Sontag. So clearly Sontag has set up that car pretty well for the straights as Chatfield doesn't improve. Here comes Evan Byrne in the Renault now then. Across the line he will now go in the Renault, and he does not improve. Patel is also finished as well, so both Lamborghinis are done for this practice session. Under a minute to go now then. Q-Pop, 3,000 up on his personal best in the mile sector, so we'll have to wait and see if he can improve. We know that the Honda engine is quite powerful down the straight, judging from what we've seen so far in this practice session, so let's see if Q-Pop can use that to his benefit. Let's see. The German driver who got points last time out at the Chinese Grand Prix is going to cross the line, and where can he improve on his lap? He can, but only into 21st position, currently just in front of Daniel Fraser, the man who set his who got points also last time out in China. We're now looking at Amar Khan now. Then he just rounds the final 2 corners, currently behind his teammate Franco Lopez. We'll just get one more flying lap in before this session comes to a close. Just under 20 seconds left on the clock now. Then as they come down the pit straight. And Carr, I don't think he's going to improve, but let's see anyway. Carr crosses the line in the Mercedes, currently in P13, and stays P13 round. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Checkered flag is out, and that is the end of the session. And I do believe that Aston Martin was the last one to cross the line. I think that was Anderson, if I'm not mistaken. That was the last to cross the line. It was one of the Aston Martins. I can't remember which one it was. But anyway, we're now looking at Felix Sontag now then. He's just coming around the final 2 turns. As it is Anderson, in fact, because Motrin's got the pit indicator next to his name. So it was Anderson that was the last car to cross the line. Sontag coming down the pit straight now then in the Williams. And across the line he will now go in the pink Williams. And I don't think it's going to be improving. And no, it isn't. He stays where he is. Same with Roke, but I don't think he'll care either way. Chatfield didn't improve. Here comes Evan Byrne. Across the line he will go in the Renault. And he doesn't improve, stays in P9. DeRosa just getting some mileage in. Here comes David Kupok in the Alpha Tauri. Now coming around the final few turns. Nearly said Alfa Romeo there, but it's Alpha Tauri. Now coming around the final couple of corners now then will come David Kupok as he now makes his way down the pit straight. And I don't think he's going to improve. He's currently in 21st. He's got red on his def panel. Across the line will go the German driver. And he doesn't improve, stays where he is. Perinen just getting mileage in. Fraser is up on his personal best. Currently last. Can he get out of last place before this practice session comes to a close? As Fraser comes down the pit straight now then. And across the line will come the Haas driver. And Fraser, across the line, he will now go. Can he get out of last position? And he can. He goes up to 21st. So Q-Pop finishes the session in last. Here comes Franco Lopez. He doesn't look like he's on an improvement. Across the line, he will now go in the Mercedes. And he stays in 10th position. Carr across the line stays down in 13th. Griffiths across the line he will go, stays where he is. Videri crosses the line and he stays where he is. Anderson, the last car to cross the line, crosses the line and he stays in 18th. And that is practice done with then. And it is George Roke top with Franco Garber in 2nd and Jesus Perinen in 3rd position. So what do you make of that session overall, Ra?
Looks pretty quick so far, so good. And they really have good straight line speed and they're really good in the middle sector, it seems.
Indeed so. Whether that'll be an omen for qualifying, we'll have to wait and see. Well, we're just going to take a brief pause for the moment for the stream. We'll come back with a fresh stream in just a little bit to start the qualifying session. But in the meantime, I've been JW97, he's been Ra, and we'll see you in just a little bit for the qualifying session. See you in a bit.